Hard times build character.
This isn't just a show, this is real life. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish.
You gotta see it before anyone else can see it.
Every second, every minute, every day.
We train for life. We got you.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Relentless Way podcast. I'm Paul Alvear, here with my longtime friend and business partner, Matt Strout. We are here in Season 3, Episode number 8, with two very special guests. If you can't tell by our title, it's going to be When the Community Speaks for Itself. We have two amazing community members here with us. To my right, for those of you watching on YouTube, Karen Farrell, and to my left, Kara Rubin. Both have been with us for some time now. Kara a little longer than Karen. We'll get into all that. Thank you both for joining today. Karen, thank you. Kara, thank you for joining.
Of course.
I think one thing that we could count on is that they were both going to be here today because they never miss their program days. They never miss their workouts, right? I mean, for you,
yeah. I mean, there's something to be said about habit.
Right.
And, yeah. Why would you miss?
Right. I don't think. Have you ever missed an actual program day? Like missed it for the entire week, or you always find a way to get it?
Well,
when
I got hammered with COVID.
Right. True.
But other than that, I'd like to say no. Right. And if I did, I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah. I remember saying to Pete when I first started, I'm like, look, I don't need to be motivated to get up and get here. There's other things that I need motivation on, because I will stand at that front door and wait for you to open.
Right, to be there. She's a 6 a.m.er, so she's always there 5:50, 5:55, ready to go. And Kara, same goes for you, right? We've worked on designing some at-home stuff, but either way, I don't think you've ever really truly missed a day of your week, right?
Nope.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yep.
So we're gonna get into it a little early here. We have two questions to start off. We'll ask them each individually. Sure. So to lay the base for the people listening that may not know you as well, especially within the Relentless community, but as simple as what brought you to Relentless? What brought you towards the movement? What kind of attracted you to the community?
Well, so it's kind of a little different story, actually, because I was involved in a gym in Jackson, right. And I was, loving it. It was a small place. It was not it was not huge. It was, kind of similar to where we are. But the gentleman that owned the gym was going to be moving for, it was just the right thing to do. Chris Lopez.
Right. Yeah. Awesome dude.
Awesome man. And he was moving, and about an hour away, so obviously that wasn't going to work. And I have a lot of respect for him, he goes, Karen, for what you want, you need to take a look at Relentless. Mm-hmm. Great. So I look at Relentless. But I looked at a couple places because I wanted to just look around a little bit. And it was, what it's like, I don't know if you've ever walked, if you're a homeowner, you walk into the house, so you're like, how am I going to find the right one? Mm-hmm. You just know. Right. Mm-hmm. I just knew when I walked in. But I kept looking at a couple because I said to myself, I'm going to do my due diligence. And I'm like that. Yeah, I do my due diligence, and I'm like, oh my God, there's nothing even close.
Right.
It's because all I wanted, I wanted a place that I wanted to work out regularly, but my biggest thing is, and we're not going to drop age numbers, but I'm up there. I'm on your older end of your audience, and I'm like, I just don't want to get hurt. Ran. All I ever did was run, but I needed to learn how to work out with weights and not get. I can get injured at home all by myself.
Right, for sure.
I need direction, and that's exact. There is never. I mean, it's amazing how you get such direction all the time. I'm a very big fan of supervised training, and trust me when I tell you, you're like a bunch of ninjas. You come out from nowhere, you're working out, and all of a sudden I hear, like, Pete, move your back of the arm this way, do that. I'm like, where'd you come from? The other day, I don't know what I was doing. I was doing a plank, and all of a sudden, Franco, where are you?
Franco
wasn't even there. lower your hips. I'm like, oh, whoa. So how did I end up Relentless? I looked around. I didn't expect to have to, but I found the perfect fit.
And I actually remember clearly when we connected with Chris Lopez when the pit was subsiding and he was moving down south. And out of the list of people, I do remember her sticking out a little more clear because she was doing her due diligence. A lot of other people, they were just which nothing against, they were very trusting in Chris, and they're like, all right, this is what we're going to go do. We're going to believe in him, which was ultimately the right decision as far as we're concerned, right?
Sure.
But for her, I remember saying, listen, let's really stay on because we loved your energy and we loved that you were doing due diligence because that's what challenges us and forces us to uphold our service and our product, right?
Yeah, we've always... Not always, I shouldn't say. We've become much more welcoming and open to it. And obviously, we always talk about in our early years coming up where just in business in general and trying to figure things out and make things work, taking criticism was always a little bit harder in the beginning. So it wasn't like our forte, right? But we had to learn that if we wanted to live up to the mission and to the brand at which we speak on, then it was going to be a lot of listening and asking questions and then having to create a filtration system of like, where is that truly coming from? Is that real? Should we fix it? Is it something to disregard? Like, you had to go through this whole thing rather than just being like, nah, this is right the way it's supposed to be, right? So with that said, the time that we did connect with Karen was a time where we were much more into that type of person. Actually, we would probably call them inside of our facility more of like a high performer, someone who is willing to go above and beyond due diligence and want the best for herself or himself or their people, like whether it be someone making that call on behalf of their whole family or their friends, whatever it is, like, but we want that, right? Because our mission is to recreate the game and to change it. So we understand what the world has the way that they perceive the industry. So like it's not, we don't expect anyone to understand who we are, what we do, and what we're trying to create because it hasn't yet been done. So our goal is to be very open and welcoming and try to lay that base and to let people come in and give us that chance. So like that's really what that initial call was where we did connect in a sense of her really being straight up, basically like what she just said there is, I remember the call of just being very honest and straightforward and us being like, well, that's exactly what we could bring to the table for you, Right. And then the other part of us, which is something that we love, is like living up to our word, like we say what we're going to do, we say what you mean what you say type deal and live up to that. So it's also a call to action to Paul and myself and then our whole team that falls is like, we could talk about it really well. We could put it out there and explain it, but like, can we fulfill it? And then can we fulfill it day in and day out? Right. Can we sustain it? Can we continue to try to get better and grow? And we don't like to talk about being proud too often. Every once in a while we talk about it, but to have people that have been with us for so long is something proud because the way a natural human works is it wants different, it wants innovative, right. And the brain is changed. So you have to be able to cater to the overall human in that, and then also keep our mission, which it goes against the grain, which is slower and more sustainable fitness, which is not necessarily what the world wants, right? So we're developing this process to say, hey, listen, like it's going to take some time, but if you believe in us and you dedicate yourself to yourself and then our team in the process, you're going to get better. So we appreciate the style at which you, and obviously we're going to get into Kara as well, but the way that they both operate.
Well, you mentioned people that have been with us for a long time. I always get the number wrong when I talk about the original OG 6 a.m. crew, right? I want to say like 7 years or so, right?
I think it was. We were just trying to figure this out the other day. It was either 2015 or 2016. I think we actually all switched over over the course of about 3 months, and I think it was a changeover in years. So I think it's been about 6 years.
And I mean, obviously, how did that go? How that went down? It's a moment that we always reflect on because it was honestly, I'll start you off. I want you to get in and explain kind of from your end a little bit, but it was something that it changed for the better the dynamic of our community because it taught us a lot more about community because the whole unit came over at the same time, which was a beautiful thing of unbelievable people, of people that were relentless as they walked through the door.
Right. So we had a group of us, I can't even guess how many that is at the time, somewhere maybe 8 8 to 12 people.
probably
like
more.
close to 12, 15 almost at the
15.
beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we had all been working out together at another gym, which had been changing over ownership. Several of us were actually teaching at that gym. It was completely class-based.
Right.
So there was no idea of supervised training. It was, you showed up at a certain specific class time, and we all went at 6 a.m. there for several years. And it was a great community. We had all gotten in really great shape, had already like sort of gotten off the couch, and we're already, you know, exercising a lot. We're already super committed to showing up 5 days a week at 6 a.m.
Yes.
And so our first sort of introduction was to take a challenge class, actually, and we all came, and that made sense at the time because that it was it was all class based. So the idea of doing supervised training, a lot of us hadn't been training in that manner at all. It was 45 minutes, 5 days a week, and so we tried a challenge class, and it was harder, which is I think what we were all looking for, right? So where we were previously was sort of had to handle training people that were sort of right off the couch, and then once you were there for a really long time, you had to get more involved. That's how I ended up teaching. It was because it just wasn't enough, right? I needed to, you know, I wanted to be a leader, and so that was sort of my involvement was to sort of get more involved, and so. Jumping straight into Relentless, we all just started taking 6 a.m. class. I don't think you ever had that many people in 6 a.m. class.
No,
regularly, right?
I don't think we even
I don't think we had.
We didn't have 6
Oh,
a.m.
really?
That's why we made a decision to do it, which is funny too, which we'll get into, like, speak on that of, like, that was like a decision we had to make. I think at the time,
Trying to remember.
what time did we open? I don't know.
No, I think we opened at 6 a.m. at that point, but we just didn't have any strong classes in place, maybe.
We definitely didn't have classes. Maybe a couple PTs. Him and I were maybe coming in here and there. It was nothing consistent. Like,
Yeah, because we were
definitely
pulling 6
consistency.
a.m.s like when we moved over there in 2013 into 14, we started to really make that transition into the Freehold
This isn't
location.
here?
Huh?
This isn't here.
Yeah, it was when we made the transition to here. So when we were in Manalapan, we started to a little bit, like we would be like 8 a.m. open, and then once in a while we all communicate and pop in, like, you know, I remember Mark, who was with us at the time, Bergery, and he was definitely an early riser, and he was kind of like a little bit of the leader of that. Like, he had a couple people come in and say, I want to train at 6, 7 a.m. So he started to open up a little early, training someone, and then it caught on, and we all started catching on to that there was a market at that time, you know, and, you know, started waking up a little earlier too. Yeah. So it was definitely, and that's why I said that in the beginning. Like, it forced us to change. It was positive growth, you know, just like any situation of different, even like when Karen and the whole, it was a similar transition if we really think about it, right? Now that we're sitting here. I was thinking more of the relationship we've created over the last couple of years, but forgetting exactly where you did come from. It was a similar, like we had a phone call with Chris Lopez and from the pit, from another place, and we had a community come over, yourself, Kim Morte, the Russelessis. There was a group of people, you know, 5 to 10 people that came over from that transition as well. So we learned a lot from our experiences with everyone from the Max, and we learned a lot from you as well. And again, I think the biggest thing is the difference, right? However, whatever you're into, however you want to look at it, is that, like you said, we weren't and still aren't just a class-based place, and that was the difference. There was a little more needed for people that were seeing great success there. You guys you had the schedule down pat. You had the you know, your endurance, your stamina. You were in great shape, right? Then it was learning that now we stay strong physically, mentally, emotionally. We had weights on. We had a little bit more in the community and connection and what we're all striving for. So that was a beautiful thing, Kara. While we're kind of still on the topic of you know, coming over with that group and community, what was so attractive for you guys on the end of being able to still you know, be like, where was the confidence knowing, hey, we're going to this place, there's plenty of choices in the world and in our actual community and in Freehold, Jackson, wherever we were coming from, but we're still confident that they're gonna uphold the standard of what we see as a community. You know, like, what was so attractive to you guys, or what made you feel good about that decision?
I think, you know, we were so tight And so we needed to be catered to in a way, right? So if we were going to go and join a big gym, I don't think that would have happened. I think we needed the understanding, which you guys had, was that the reason we come to the gym is for each other, right? Even I moved, since I've been at Relentless, I moved. I live really far from Relentless. It takes me over a half hour to come to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, right? And I still come because all of my girlfriends are there. And even now that I hardly ever take class. I pretty much only do supervised training.
It's a shift.
Right. It's a shift, right?
Yeah.
But like, I almost always run into one of them, right? And we're all still really, really close. Like, we're really close outside of the gym now, which wasn't true before we came to Relentless, actually. And so I think knowing that we could all still be in class and talk the entire time to each other, right? And that's what we did, right?
Except for some cases, obviously.
Right. We're not allowed to. You cannot make us count today. We all have to talk. It has to be time-based.
As you start seeing them connect, Karen.
No, the chatties.
Oh,
I am like, just me.
Right.
They're fun. I'm going to tell a story, actually, because I don't care, because it's our podcast. So, but many years ago, so probably when they were first entered into our Relentless world, we had a coach on staff, awesome person. She was a young girl at the time, a young coach. So coaches that are learning, we got Anthony behind the camera here, coach in training, and Brian, who's a year or so into being on our team. It's a great learning moment, but at the same time, we don't just fully attribute to her, to the individual's youth at all, but was a good person, but just was a little overwhelmed at the time, and this crew was coming in strong, right? Yeah. So it was hot. Early morning, 6 a.m., Friday morning, boxing, conditioning group going on. I believe actually normally you would have taught that one, but you were away or out or whatever.
It was a special fill-in.
And long story short, the crew had energy. The weekend was coming. It was summer, or on the way to the summer, spring maybe, and it was a good group. Boxing ring was filled. Everyone was there. There was a mix of Kara and her crew, and probably a couple other people mixed in. And we'll fast forward. I get a phone call, and it was actually from you. A phone call to the landline, and it was, I think you called.
I don't think it was me.
To give a heads up, I think.
Oh, maybe.
I think you called it, because just the way Kara handles things is very just transparent, but nice, and looking out for us, too.
Looking out,
protecting the community, right?
I will say this. I have done this. I do this with a lot of other people I know who own businesses that I am a client of.
Yeah.
I know what they don't want to happen to the facilities, right? And I don't call to be a complainer. I call because I know it's not the standard in which you guys want to uphold, and so I don't have,
and honestly, props to you. You probably saw that before us a little bit, because at that time, if it would have went past, maybe we would have never known about it or addressed it. Now I could say we have our pulse on a lot of other things. We have our way of finding those things out and understanding them, big or small. But I pick up the phone and very informational. Hey, Paul, I just want to let you know this was our experience. Basically, what happened was we were chatty. It was Friday morning. We had energy. We were working out, moving, and the coach that was coaching us lowered the music and said, basically, everyone he probably used the word, maybe said F or shut the hell F up and listen to me, right? Something of that effect. Right. So that was what happened. You could imagine that coach naturally made Anthony's jaws on the ground. Right? That coach naturally made their way out. You know what? Listen, we had a conversation. There's always a chance, right? Listen, this is what happened. We know what happened. And it just wasn't for them at the time. That was their moment of them finding out what if it was for them or not. So thank you for that. And at the same time, back to the point now, that's what this community is about, is being able to be efficient and work still while connecting with other people, understanding moments when there is conversation, when those conversations are needed. And sometimes those are above the physical movement. Right? Sometimes that you come in and a half hour out of your hour, there may need to be a conversation had, because that is part of our health as well, right? Is having good relationships, having connections too. So to bring it all full circle there. And as far as you, Karen, obviously you said a lot of great things, and when you were brought over to Relentless and did make your way over, but what really attracts you about like the community aspect of it?
I feel like the common denominator with everyone that's there is that we have choices, and we're all choosing to be part of the Relentless community just because of what you bring consistently to the table. There is never disappointment, and you have to remember. It was 6 months before the pandemic is when I came through your doors. So now I'm getting the vibe going. I'm finally got some, my 6 a.m. thing, my plans, and then now we can't show up.
Right.
And you didn't miss a beat.
No.
Which is miraculous. Think about that. You did not miss a beat.
Right.
And that was new, uncharted territory waters for everybody. And you stayed on top of things. Like, we just never missed a beat. And then, it's like that. I mean, that's amazing to me. I feel the commitment from everyone. Everyone, not everyone except, no. Everyone.
Everybody,
If I could rattle off every coach's name, I would. I probably could, but I'm saying, like, the commitment's there. So if I'm giving 100%, I know you guys give it right back. You make sure we stay on track. So that's it. I mean, not to oversimplify, but that's it.
Yeah. And I always say too that the members and coaches are very alike, right? We obviously have different roles. We have different roles of leadership within the community, but our team and our membership is basically really one, right? And they're working together. They're very cohesive because you see it and you find it. And just like the story we told before on the coaches' end, it's like a tight group of friends, right? They will be weeded out in the nicest way possible, right? Like if it's not for them at the moment or forever or whatever the decision is, they'll find their way out. Right, and then again, in the nice way possible. I'm not saying we throw people out, right? But you see it happen if someone's just not the fit for them, and they may return. They may come back when they're in a different place in their life, and they may come back and say, "Okay, I'm ready to go now.
That's right.
I'm geared up for it." And I'm not saying that it's anything tough and challenging, but it's a lot of basically transparent connections and relationships from the way you're working out to doing the right thing to being part of the community to everything we do, right? We always say the physical, mental, and emotional. You have to be committed to all of them to truly go about it the full Relentless way, right? And that's something that Kara, I think, as of recently, more so, like you said, through the pandemic, you found yourself making a beautiful change of not being in as many classes and stuff, right? You went through some little injury moments, but you, in that moment, instead of saying, I still want to keep doing these things and running and jumping around nonstop, you made a transition and bettered yourself and made an adjustment, right, to more supervised training.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I actually started here. I'm sorry, Kara. I'm actually thinking that I just wanted classes.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And similar
that was true. That was true for me also.
I was like, look, I just want to be told what to do, and I will do it.
Right. That's true.
But
But I think that's the goal too. That is a lot of comfort.
There's
for
a lot of
people, so to bring people in and get them comfortable, and then, like I said earlier, like we don't expect people to understand it, so it's our job to welcome them into supervised training, and then be like, oh wow, right? Because the ultimate goal, like Paul just said, was as life is our competition, right? Life is shifting, it's changing. Kara has a couple children. They have different schedules. Life is that she moved, right? But she has a pretty consistent time-ish, but she also has the ability to come whenever she needs to too. That's something great about her, and that's what supervised training
I totally agree.
can bring to the table now, because it is the specification of something just for you as an individual. So it's just designed for you, and then because of the availability of what supervised training is, which is us having one of our coaches on to own the floor from the times we're open from 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. And you go on the app, you schedule it, so now it's accountable for yourself. The team knows you're coming. You feel that. You show up now based upon your life. You have your work design, and then that is that transition. And now it's just like tools on your tool belt. Like, it's not like you can't take the small group trainings or the classes that we have, but you mix those in addition to your custom program.
Right. I never miss you. Right. I never miss a workout that's designed for me, but then I have more that I want to be able to do. But I love the flexibility of being able to make that a class, make that a long walk, make it a hike with my husband, right? I like to be able to sort of have that flexibility.
Yep.
But I think that if I was only taking classes, over time, my life has changed at home. And if my only option or my only comfort was to take classes, I wouldn't be able to do it at Relentless anymore. Right? I could previously when my kids were younger, but now that they're older, I have 3 different times that they leave for school. I can't be at the gym at 6 a.m. I would miss them. I would miss all those moments in the morning, and I don't want to do that. So now I come later, and I can't believe that I do, but I've just made it a priority that I come at 9 o'clock in the morning instead of 6 o'clock in the morning.
And that's a shift where a lot of people get lost. Because they're so set on a class or a schedule that's not theirs, right?
God,
like it's not their schedule, right?
Yep.
That's where people get lost because they go into it thinking about the Relentless schedule or the wherever they're going. They think about someone else's schedule instead of theirs, right?
Yeah, that's a very great point.
Well, I mean, that's what just. As life evolves, you have to be willing to go with it. I am like just amazed at when people, because when you start out and it's just you, your time's your time, and then then you start having kids, and then
Time's not yours at all.
not at all. But you have to figure it out. You got to have that flexibility, and you offer that here.
Right. Just think if you hadn't even had the ability to adjust and be open at 6 a.m. every day when we were changing gyms,
for sure.
we wouldn't be here at all.
Yeah, you're right. There'd be no question at all. And we look back on a decision to do that because it was bigger when we got over here because you saw a lot of more. I mean, we weren't too far. We were in Manalapan on 33, but it was just a little more centralized to like you saw a lot of commuters. You saw a lot of the early morning business professionals that were getting up, had to get their work, and then hopping on the bus at 7 a.m. Some even earlier. Honestly, we still have a lot of people that. Well, pre-pandemic that we didn't cater to as well because we had to be open at 5 a.m. But I mean, we may get there at some point. We'll see. Depending on where it brings us. But now that I honestly took a bigger shift because now it's like the opposite. Those 5 a.m.ers are like lunchtime now. I haven't been on the bus in a couple of years. And we also mentioned. You talk about the adjustments of your families and your kids and their lives too. And both of you. Your children have had an opportunity to take part in our system, in our program, Olivia and Colin, which has been unbelievable. I got to work very closely with Colin, which was an awesome experience for me. That's one of my favorite things to do is work with not just athletes, but athletes that are. I don't just want the athlete that's able to come in and like work hard. He was able to do that and just do whatever you tell him to do, but also adjust and think with it and let them send them off for their season, for their life or whatever it is with a lot of new stuff and stuff that he carries on his own now, even in the busiest of seasons. How did you see, Kara, we talk about this a lot, the effect that it had on Colin, through his journey early on in his high school years. It's crazy. It feels like yesterday, but it's been over the last couple of years that we've attacked that.
There was actually, COVID had a few blessings as hard as it was. There was having my children home and finishing Colin in high school as a freshman, finishing his day at 11:30 in the morning allowed us to come to the gym together at 11:30, and he got to experience what I get to experience. He learned. He was a sponge, right? He wanted to get strong. He loved every moment of being in the gym here. It was an experience that I felt comfortable with him learning how to start to weight train at the age that he was, which was the 14, 15. That's the age he was when he started, and I didn't feel comfortable sending him to a school weight room with almost no supervision and having friends push him to do crazy, lifts and just because they were all teammates that they felt like that was the right way to do it. He learned here, which I wish I had learned at such a young age, proper form, proper technique. I mean, he does a lot of things on his own now. Now he does the research. Will change up. He'll design his own workouts at times to fit this the little bit of time that he has, especially when he's in season. But I feel confident that he knows what he's doing so much more than if he just was thrown at a weight room in a school. So I think that really has changed his mindset. Chloe too. She's also an athlete, right? So she came only last summer. So she was still in middle school when Colin was in high school. and now she's a field hockey player, and she lifts on her own downstairs in the gym. She runs. She is committed to being strong too. This in my house, they all walk around and they flex like. I'm like, look at my legs, look at my arms. Caroline, the littlest one, is downstairs doing pull-ups.
Contagious.
She does pull-ups. She's like, come watch me do pull-ups, and she's 10. And it's just the way that they. And I really do think it was Colin coming here. It really helped him sort of just learn the basics.
And I see that early on. That's what I was trying to say earlier. That's my favorite part, is just knowing that like you're going to be able to ignite that, get that spark going. Because Colin is that type of person. I knew it. Like, I just wanted to give him as much information as I can the right way, and I knew that what he was going to do with it. And I'm not saying I was going to predict exactly what you said, but I knew that's what was going to happen in my head. I knew once. Then here comes Chloe through the door, right? And you just know they're all siblings. They're a very close knit group of family, right? I knew it was going to be contagious, and I love hearing that even more so now. You know, it's beautiful.
Claire had off the other afternoon, and we had to go somewhere, so I organized myself and my schedule that I would come and work out. She was with me. She's like, oh, can I work out? So now we've got the 12-year-old on the treadmill and doing my full workout with me. It was a day where I was doing a lot of body weight stuff. I was like, you could just do my whole workout with me. Now she is at home. She works out. She trains soccer for a lot. She's in season now. But even her days off, she is working out at home, running. The other day it was beautiful outside. She went for a run. She does workouts in the basement.
And this is stuff through the pandemic that we learned a lot too, is we set stuff up at our closer to home. So we took out that drive sometimes, even yourself, right? A couple of days a week, you don't take that hour round trip, right? You know, so it's so important, the adjustments, the changes, like we talked about from the start of coming into a new facility and making that change, to the constant changes along the way and adapting to them. And we had a great experience. I know Franco. We all work closely with Olivia.
Right.
I know Franco did her program design and connected with her early on. That was a beautiful thing as well.
Great. Yeah, she loved it. And she, like Kara was saying about her children, she kept up with it. She has, she's always been running, but she didn't use weights. She didn't know how same story. So she now knows how. We have, I'll call, is it a home gym? It's what we set up.
For sure.
And I mean, it's a bench, it's some weights, but she runs, works out with weights, and then ends with a little bit of a run too. I don't have to even tell her about it, but she uses all the knowledge that she got from Franco and from just working out here. And it was something I wanted her to do, and it was, you know, I was happy that it was like I could confidently just say, this is where you need to go. They will show you.
Right, for sure.
And that was it.
And we
didn't get to work out together except for Saturdays.
Because time.
Because I would come. Well, she would come with during when she was still school. You know, the virtual whatever. She was able to come with me at 6 a.m. But then eventually, when she went back, then it went to then at 6 at night. I wouldn't come in with her. I
didn't want mom to show her up.
Well, we did a challenge day that one time, and we're both holding the plant, and I'm like, oh, that kid's still going. Oh my god. I'm like, I guess if I have to lose someone, it's going to be my kid. You know?
I'm trying to.
Yeah, she won the whole thing.
Yeah, she did.
She did.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, but yeah. So this is. I mean, that was a no-brainer to bring her here. I knew I need to take care of her.
Right.
And that's all I want.
Appreciate it.
Take care of my baby.
We appreciate the confidence, but I mean, it's. You know, sometimes I'm very passive with the response because that's what we set out to do. You know, like it really is. It's like it's at the core of it all. You know, Matt and I always tell stories about where we started specifically with individuals such as, you know, Colin and Olivia specifically in Pain in the Pines in Jackson in the backyard with. You know, we were younger at the time, but the high school kids,
Ryan
that's
Fraser,
where we started.
right?
Ryan Fraser.
Ryan Fraser.
Once a week, I performance coach with him once a week, and he'll be editing this video as well. He still edits all. He still does all. We finish it. We send our podcast to him. He edits it all. He gets it all together, and he literally texted me yesterday. He was like, "It's it's uploaded. It's ready to go." And then I meet with him. You know, I talk to him all the time, but. There's a prime example, Ryan Fraser. We've had him on the show, on the podcast too, early on, season 1, of just individuals that we connect with in moments. I guess there's more moments with youth, right? That we see, that learning moments and growth moments. So it's definitely a lot more visible and attainable in the moment. But nowadays, it's everybody.
It almost makes you feel amazing though when you can kind of reach the younger kids. to do like such positive
sure.
things and make them feel, empower them a little bit.
But also at the same time, you'd be surprised. I mean, maybe not so, but there's adults, people that are our age, older than us, that we connect with and help change their life, and they help change our lives too. You know what I mean? I mean, simple stories that we've told on the Relentless Way podcast of just even our for the first person that ever believed in us, in Perry, right? As far as business owners. So
about Perry.
Here's a man that without getting into any crazy story, just believed in 21, 22-year-olds at the time and invested in us and brought us to places such as the facility we're in now, and made it possible for us to operate and put every day out our dreams and our visions and our mission. So again, same thing, this community just kept building, and everybody has an effect on everyone that wants to, right? So that being said, the kids, it's great, obviously, but because they're that's their most vulnerable point of growth, right? Through their teenage years from when they're born, right? But until they're a little more free. But the adults with us, sometimes things are a little hidden, people don't know, and then shit hits the fan, and then that's when people lead on the Relentless community, and a lot of people get that help that maybe they wouldn't elsewhere, sometimes even within their own family, and that's us as well too. The heartbeat is all collective. It's the team and it's the community. It's all one. It's the team and the members, and that makes the community.
Right.
As you know, we take a lot of pride in our leadership, right? And I believe leadership should be working to be the example. So you should be prideful first in yourself, and then that trickles down the line. So a couple great things all said there. Number one, I'll start with us. That was the last thing we just said, but I think the pride that we take in wanting to be leaders is to work too hard to be the example. And I think that's an energy that can be felt. And, with great power comes great responsibility, but we pride ourselves with the power and influence that we do have with the young generation. But I think that's what we set out to do, is also just to be the example and pave the way. And then if we want them to be like, we want to be like that type deal, right? But again, I almost feel like it is easier, to use a term, to work with the young kids if you are living up to a high level example, because it's something to admire and look up to. Older generations have been through more life. They're set in their ways. They've seen life, and they could be tainted and scarred. And I think that actually is a really proud moment, as of most recently, more than ever, for Paul, myself, and the team, to be able to connect at such high levels with people that have been through life or have been through career shifts and losing jobs or building businesses, and to be able to connect and to be younger and to find commonality. I think that's something really new that we've been able to do, which is really an empowering moment for that too, because I think, like Paul says, it goes both ways, and we're constantly always learning from each other, but to allow someone's guard to come down, to let us in, to learn and grow together, is something that we've earned over the years. That's definitely been time in. So I would say that first on our behalf, but then both of you are extreme high level examples as well, right? So number one, to paint the picture on Kara, when she says she comes to the gym with her kids, I need you to understand that it's like she has 5 children. Four. She comes in, she has 4 children. What's the difference? All 5 of them will walk in. 4. No, with Kara. All 5 of them will walk in. She'll figure out who's working, like if someone are working out. If not, some may go sit outside on the front. They bring chairs. Some will be reading. Some will playing. It's like almost unreal, but it's real. It's not just it happens. It's the level of discipline and commitment to each other of listen, mommy's gonna go do this, and this is what you're gonna do for an hour, and that's what you're gonna do, and they do it And then as the years have gone on, we've been able to watch them slowly get a little older and then come in. Right. And then come in now, right? So now it's but it's amazing to watch, but they see, right? So it's not, to me, it's not weird.
They love to do it.
That they're growing up inside of this, right? Because they also see you, right? They're watching and they're like, I want to be like that. So it's not this is weird. You're setting the example, you're blazing the trail. And same thing for you. A quick funny story. We talked about when Karen was onboarded and we spoke and she did her diligence. But after I spoke with her and she brought herself in and had the experience and she decided that she wanted to have her daughter Olivia in, she called me and said, hey, listen, would you be okay? But my daughter Olivia would really like to talk to you herself, because I told her about the experience, the way it's supposed to go down. So as a 16-year-old girl, and I said, of course, or was she 15 even at the time?
She was 15, yeah.
She was 15, she just turned 16. Yeah. So I'm like, Yeah, of course. But I'm like, well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? This girl was on point, spoke so well, asked great questions. After the conversation, she said, I'm going to go back to the website and do my diligence, look through the coaches and pick the one. She got back to me and told me the coach that she wanted to work with, Franco, because he had history in working with different people through running, whether it be marathon or different events, and helping them. And she called and said, I would like to work with Franco. I saw his... I'm like, all right.
She negotiated her membership. She went on the
So it's
told the contract terms.
As Paul says earlier, we're constantly learning and growing from each other as well. And I think that we've been able to see over the years of who sets good examples, right? And then things that we want to act like more or be like more or speak like more. So as we keep growing and evolving, we're always watching. We're students of the game of life, right? So we're watching things we like and don't like constantly day in and day out and reflecting on them. So again, thank you to you two specifically, but then also to our community, because that's what this is. I mean, we can't say it enough. It's give and take, It's like, this is what we love to do, so allow us to keep learning, growing, and evolving and bring it back home. And let's all just go live life and then bring all of those lessons and experiences back and work off of them together, and then just work to like if we could help someone not make one mistake that we already made and they could learn from it, like that's a win, you know what I mean? So again, a little older with the older generations, but it goes like this, and then with the younger generations it goes like this. So it's like, but we're always learning.
Close the gap.
We try to close the gap day in and day out, right?
Totally close the gap. I mean, I know where I am on the spectrum, and I don't have a problem with, I'm always learning. I said, I mean, these guys are 20, 21, 22. So what? It's the like-mindedness in this place is amazing.
I'm looking something up. I want to say it's bugging me that date that starts.
Yeah, I know. I meant to ask you during the week and I forgot.
But before we do get to that, we'll end off with that.
I had one thing to say.
Go ahead, of course.
I played sports in college, 2 sports in college, and leaving that environment, right? I'm 22 when I graduated. My whole life I've played on teams, right? I've been captain of those teams. I've been in season and off season with those teams. The transition to a gym to work out by yourself is a really hard change, right? I've always been part of a team, and I feel like Relentless gives you that sense of a team, right? Like, we're not all playing the same sport and we're not all working out exactly the same time, but I feel like there's a connection like you have with your teammates. So I have that with my girlfriends who I work out with. I have it with you guys. I feel like I can always, be pushed to constantly improve as an athlete, even though I'm no longer the age that I was, when I was able to play on a team. So once I graduated, the last day I had a basketball game in my senior year, it was the last time I was actually on a team, right? That was actually a team member. But when I get here, in this environment very specifically, I sort of feel like I got that back. I feel like I have the responsibility to show up and continue to work out, right? So showing up is not difficult for me, right? I have committed to showing up, but I feel like it's because I'm part of, you call it your community, I call it the team. It's the same.
And then when you show up, you also bring your intentful energy and action as well, which I believe is also what binds us all together because of the level at which our community does show up and want to bring and show up and work hard. We want to show up and bring and work out hard and live up to that expectation, which keeps us all constantly growing. So very well said, though.
And that's a transition in its own too, that a lot of people struggle with, is coming from sport, coming from a team in the opposite way, because they don't look at it the way that you're explaining it. They don't. I guess maybe the people that struggle were the ones that are kind of maybe not the leaders, not the team players, not the captains, not those role models, right? You see it often, the high and mighty, ex-athlete that comes in and doesn't want to listen to anything anyone says or be part of a team. They just want to do their own thing. And that's in many worlds too. That could come in the professional world as well, But I think we are seeing a shift in the world over, not even just because of the pandemic, but over the last, 5 to 10 years or so, from what I've seen, maybe just because it's right in front of me, of even these larger companies working more togetherness, right? Rather than like, all right, here's more task based and roles, and this is I'm up top and I'm calling the shots. You see a lot more collective, working, and I think we've been doing that since we opened up. It's always been about the team. Matt being someone at the front of our line at all times, even from the first day we opened the doors. It was always selflessness. It was never selfishness in the middle of it all. Certain moments when he had to be for himself to make sure he stays strong and good, and that trickled down to myself, to Franco, to just all our role players, all the way down to Brian now. You don't
let your egos get in the way either, gentlemen.
No,
pretty good.
No, never. I mean, I think egos never get in the way. But I think the one good thing that I would say hopefully never goes away is our that little bit of stubbornness, that little bit of like that I guess it's more of that competitiveness and that will to win, because we're so confident and strong in some of our, I guess, opinions in a sense, but for the better of the business. I mean, we're one thing that Matt and I have always been able to harness, and it's not common, and we're really fortunate of it, and it was kind of just the way it went down because of the way our energies are and as people, is that we never really do it's never really about like ourselves outside of Relentless, especially in moments when it's about Relentless,
Sure.
And that goes to what you said. It's because we've come from teams, we come from families that are a team that work together, and we've been influenced by that, And another thing I wanted to get into, we'll close it up a little bit, but obviously we have so much good conversation and good stuff for the listeners going on. Is that another community that you're both involved in is the Upper Freehold Regional School District, right? And
yes.
Matt and I have had the privilege within the past year or so to connect even more inside the school district and just get a more understanding of how they operate. And that led to conversations with just people in the outside world, and everyone, not everyone, Karen's going to say not everyone, but everyone that we've talked to for the most part has nothing but great things to say about that school district, about and it's not one of the biggest around, right? It's by far.
It's considered, small, medium.
Yeah,
like 2,400 kids.
So what's your role inside of the school district with whatever you obviously feel comfortable with, and how do you
could disclose?
How do you see that? How do you see that being very similar to the Relentless way, to Karen, how she operates, and connect that all for us?
It is a community, right, Kara? It is a hidden gem. It is just a tight-knit, total respect for each other, positive environment. I am not singing Kumbaya right now. Right? This is what it is. I have I'm not getting paid anymore because I'm saying all this great stuff.
There's no company growth.
Stuff I'm not going to have an extra zero on my check.
It's far from that.
No. I mean, leadership top down. You both met Mark.
Right.
He's the superintendent. He's awesome. He endures the stuff that we dish out to him once in a while, but he's amazing. He calls some tough shots. He's consistent and fair. I watch him, grace under fire like every day, and he's just a good, kind human being. And if you're just, a fundamentally great person, kind person, that's how he leads that whole district, and he doesn't tolerate, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but he won't tolerate anything less. He's just a good man, and that's what he surrounds himself with. That's the same as our community. For sure. Al, listen to me. No, I'm just I'm now a partner in Relentless. That's right. But same thing. You can't have too much positive, right?
For
stop.
Sure.
I mean, the world gives you enough negative crap that you have to deal with every day. That's just the God-given. That's just the way it is. But you can't, and that's a positive environment. It's a positive environment coming to Relentless. It's I've said this to Mark countless, I don't dread Mondays.
Right. It's beautiful.
I do not dread Monday. Never do. It's just a great thing. Oh, I did talk to him a little bit about retiring, but no. We have a lot of years for that.
Okay.
Yeah. Olivia changed my whole plan, but whatever.
And from some things that you say in there, we've seen even as we've connected with people in conversation and realizing that they're part of that community, it all makes sense.
See?
From Drew, from one of the phys ed teachers and
Drew.
coaches, we start connecting. We're like,
Lockmeyer, right?
He works. That makes sense now. Like he's part of that community, and
right.
it's all is connected all the way down to Carol. When we came in to kind of start telling, like we were talking to her about it, telling her, yeah, we met with Mark, we had this, and then like we're kind of getting. She's like, yeah, that's where the kids go. This is our district, right? And, like,
am I kind of like on the point with what I just said, or am I you're a parent there and I'm a worker there?
Right. My experience is very a daily. Is very different than yours, right? So I have 4 kids in the district. I've experienced all 3 schools, and Mark came in and replaced Dr. Fitzpatrick, who was new. He was still the superintendent when we moved to the district. The most beloved superintendent.
And that's who I first started working with.
In the community, just so beloved. And he was so loving and caring. Mark had really big shoes to fill, and as an unknown, because we didn't really know the community, I didn't know him at all. He did not miss a beat.
No, he didn't.
And I have to say, I hate to keep using COVID, but it's just like what we've been living for the past 2 years. My experience is nothing like what you see, all the memes about having to teach my kids or having teachers who don't want to teach and just sort of letting everything skate by. From the get-go, 2 years ago in March, my kids were learning online, full-on, did not stop. There wasn't a week where they did not have full-on classes. There was no paperwork that, here's 2 weeks worth of some papers, work on your own.
Good luck with that.
Immediately, they were learning online from their teachers. And I didn't have the experience where the teachers, none of my kids' teachers, were not fully engaged or were, fighting against the school board or fighting against the system, and they all seemed very happy and were sad that they weren't in school, but were so happy to still be able to connect with all of their students. So we've had a really positive experience.
And just like us with mentally, physically, emotionally.
Yeah.
That's straight up how that could almost be their mantra. Maybe they'll borrow.
When we connected with him, that's what it was right away. We were shooting back different ways that we grow our mindset. And here's us a little bit, obviously going in. We hopefully carry ourselves well, but we're sitting in there before we head in. We're getting ourselves ready. Like it was the first time we were ever going into something. We were excited. We had good energy. We were getting this opportunity to meet with this man, and we hope to connect with. We will connect with him hopefully on the podcast sooner than later, just in general. But that's exactly what it was. It was like it all lined up. It was like, hold up, this is the way that we operate at this level, obviously, and this is the way that this man is leading and running, and the whole community operates, and it all made sense. It's like all the stars aligned. The Relentless Way, and the do you guys have a motto?
See now, I don't really know. Mark, I'm sorry.
the Redbird, the Redbird way.
Yeah, Redbird way. Next level Redbird. Next level. Oh my God.
I got it. I put it on the spot. So the Relentless Way and Next Level Redbirds, it was like it all lined up, and we were shooting stuff back and forth to each other and information, and it just all good energy and good stuff to kind of bring it all together. That you have 2 members of the Relentless community here, right? That stand for a lot of the same things, those core values that are on our wall. Bring your knowledge and passion, connect on a personal level, commit to excellence, and change the game. Right. So it's all very similar things. If we dug deep inside of the Upper Freehold Regional School District, it's a very long word. I'll get the acronym down one day. But if you put it all together, it's just very, very similar. And Karen, you said it before. It's like a hidden gem. Even as my wife and I are searching for houses and stuff, we never keep that off the charts, especially with the way schools are mixing up around here and districts are mixing up. So it's a beautiful thing. I love how we could connect it all together, and not to leave everyone hanging, but we definitely want to get Mark in here on a podcast. I think it'd be amazing for people to hear and hear his perspective and just him as a man, and I'm sure even just as a leader in the district.
He's a leader in the district, and he's a dad. He's an amazing dad to 3 girls.
Beautiful. Yep. So a lot of good stuff. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna finish off with a little bit of a challenge, but I'm gonna let the ladies think a little because Matt's gonna start it off. So if you could give our listeners some positive energy and words to kind of carry their day on or end their day whenever the time is that they're listening, what do you got for them today?
I'm going to go off of kind of like what we're talking about today, and I believe that it's important. So one thing that keeps coming in mind as we speak upon leadership inside here, whether it be leading your house, leading a business, leading a movement of any sort, I believe it's also very important to protect the culture. And I think that's something that we all do very much so, day in and day out. Well, we've done it. There's moments that we've done it where Paul spoke earlier where we had to protect the culture on the side of the coaches. We've gone through moments where we had to protect the community and have to work through where I had to have, during the pandemic, I remember having a very awkward, uncomfortable conversation with someone who was new to our community that was just not mixing it with our community. They were just stirring things up. It wasn't right. It was a tough time in the world, but at the same time, we were all going through a tough time. So we were looking to work together, and I remember specifically knowing that it had about 3 or 4 impacts on not just my team, but the members. And, me, the way I work is I go through my mind of the feelings of how people perceive everything, and I take that very seriously, and I believe it's our job at the top as leaders to protect the environment at which everyone is inside of. And I remember specifically one morning coming in, it was 6 a.m. because she was coming to a 6 a.m. class that morning, and I decided to text her and say, hey, please call me before you come. And I said, listen, unfortunately, it's this very hard thing to do. This is coming right out of the pandemic where everything counts. But the culture to me counted much more than money because culture will win always. And I told her very respectfully that unfortunately right now, I can't have you come here. You're just not fitting in, and I think it's the right thing to do for all of us. And it was a very hard decision. Wow. She was taken back, and she's like, so...
This is a member you're saying this?
This was a member, yeah, but I believe it was the right thing to do. It had to be done.
Sure.
And I did it, and she's like, so I can't come today? And I said, no, unfortunately, I can't have you. Like I said, I had this is 3 conversations after. This was the final talk. That this means so much to me that I'm willing to have this uncomfortable conversation because you're making my coaches uncomfortable and my people, my members, our community uncomfortable. So this has to be done. So the message, though, that I'm getting at is that when you understand who you are, what you stand for, the standards at which you operate at a daily basis, you must protect those standards, and you do whatever it takes to protect them and hold them near and dear to your heart for not only yourself first, but then for everybody else that you love and that you represent. So that's my message.
Mm-hmm. Kara, what do you got for us? Oh, 2015.
2015.
April.
Wow.
April 22nd. So next month it'll be 7 years. Right?
Wow.
Beautiful. So 7 years. 7 years of Relentless. What do you want to leave the people with?
My biggest struggle right now is balance for my kids. I'm super duper competitive, and I want them to have that fire in them and be competitive at the same time, but I'm really concerned about their mental health. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that is what I strive to have balance with them every single day. There's just too much in the world of athletics, and everybody talks about college athletics like it's like the be all end all. Right. But the mental health of those athletes is put into question a lot for me, and the motivations to how they're formed and who they're surrounded by with their coaches, even happening at a young age with my own children on their competitive teams. And so for me, it's more about be kind to yourself, and be a good person more than anything. So that's balance out being a good athlete and being mentally strong, and I want to grow really good human beings and have them be really good adults. And that is, what I think needs to be focused on more than, how well they're lifting and how great their scores are in school, is to just make them mentally happy and healthy.
So important. Thank you for that. That's huge.
Yeah, that is huge. That is well said.
Yes, seriously.
And So how do you go off? Just there's the biggest thing, because I did, obviously when you asked about coming on this, what do I want to bring to the table here, if there's anything, and it's just that there's a space here for everyone at Relentless. There's a spot. I mean, we speak of the young bucks that you always speak about, Matt, how you talk about them, and but I walked in your doors. I was a 58-year-old woman, and so it's fine. Like, you have to learn how to evolve with life. Do I work out the same exact way as I did when I was 20? No. We all, but you learn to evolve. And it can be intimidating. It can be intimidating, but the intimidation is taken out of the picture when you're taken care of by everyone in this place, every coach. The members give you the smile, and so there's a space for everyone. But it's up to you, the individual, to walk through that door or pick up that phone like we did, and just be a part of it, because there's never too much positive. Like I said before, there's always room for more positive, and that's what this is. I really, at this point in my life, pick and choose who I'm going to be around, and maybe I've done that a lot of my life, to be honest.
Right,
with
more
you.
than you think. Yeah.
And if it's not going to be like an inspiring, positive kind of environment, I'm not going to choose to be a part of that. So we choose. This is a choice. Relentless is definitely a choice, and I'm very grateful for it, and I'm very grateful for how in tune everyone is to helping me evolve still, and I will continue until I'm not here.
Well, we thank you both for those were all great messages. That might have been one of our strongest finishes that we've had, and that's a lot there. So we thank you for your time. Thank you for those unbelievable messages, and your perspective is what we go for. So for those that are listening on Amazon Music, on Spotify, and Apple Music, for those that are watching on YouTube, thank you also for tuning in. If you could share this with one person or anybody that it could help them get through a day, get through a moment, change their life, change that moment for them, please do so. Share away on all of those outlets that I just mentioned. And thanks again for tuning in to the Relentless Way podcast, season number 3, episode 8, when the community speaks for itself.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.